Hi everyone, it's Erin from the Provincial Farmhouse. In today's video, I'm going to be doing some Moody French country home decor. My first project is this lovely jewellery box. I thrifted it quite some time ago, but I struggled with what to do with it, how to approach this project. So my first step was to take the hardware off this piece. It has some lovely handles and it also has some really cute feet. Now they were giving me gothic vibes, so I decided to embrace that, and we're going to go with a more moody French country look. I then taped off the red velvet that was inside the little compartment there with some masking tape. And then I took out Paint Couture's pitch black chalk paint. I'm going to be applying 2 coats of this over the entire jewellery box. As I said, I was really going for that more moody look with the spooky season approaching. I'm definitely feeling like I want to do some projects that are a little bit different to my usual neutral colours. And because of the feet that this project had, it really did lend itself to a darker look. So I'm going to work my way around the jewellery box, adding the pitch black paint. And as I said, it took 2 coats. The second coat was really just sort of a touch-up coat. This paint is very highly pigmented and it goes a really long way. For this project, I didn't end up doing any priming. I just wiped it down really well. It felt like it had somewhat of a sort of porous feeling to it. I feel like the finish had worn off from this piece a little while ago, and chalk paint does tend to stick to most surfaces like this, so I wasn't worried about adhesion. When it came time to work on the little drawers, I just added the paint on the front, on the little lip on the side, and the lip up the top. I'm not going to put it down the sides of the drawers because that could impact how the drawers slide in and out of the jewellery box. On the little door, I painted the front and the sides. I'm also going to be painting the bottom of the jewellery box as well, considering it's raised up a little bit, and the back. Next, I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Extreme Guard in Gloss. I'm going to pour out a little bit of that product into an empty clear coat container, and then I'm actually going to grab the paintbrush that I'm going to use, and I'm going to dip it into the pitch black that we used before, just so I have a couple of drops of that on the end of my brush, and then I'm going to mix it in with my clear coat. Doing this gets you a much better finish. You're less likely to have streaks, and it's just really something that I found more success with doing it this way. So I'm going to continue to work my way through the drawers and adding it to the doors, and of course the base of the jewellery box as well. I let the clear coat dry for several hours, and then I took out IOD's new Etiquette's Gilded Transfers, and I'm going to put this design across the 3 drawers that we have on the left there. I'm going to position it in the center, and then I'm going to be using the transfer stick that comes in the pack to start rubbing. When you're using the Gilded Transfers, it's definitely a good idea to focus the pressure on the design itself that you're trying to transfer down. Now, I ended up not doing the best job on the text that's in the center, and I was disappointed in myself. I was a little bit impatient. I was a little bit too rough with my pressure as well. So the text ended up getting distorted, and some of that gold gilding ended up coming through in places where it shouldn't. But learn from my mistake. Don't press as hard in the sections where there's fine text, and also take your time. These really can be beautiful. You just have to be patient with them. So I am just going to embrace the imperfections. I'm not going to focus on it too much. And then once I'd finished transferring it down, I took a palette knife and I used that to go in between the drawers sections to cut any overlapping transfer. I then took out IOD's Rose Botanical transfer, and I'm going to be adding this rose design on the side. I'm going to have it creeping around the side of the jewellery box, so I'm just sort of trimming off any excess transfer where I don't want it to go, and then I'm going to press down and start rubbing. Here again, you can see that I am going across some gaps in the drawers, so I'm definitely working in sections here, rubbing on the sections on the drawers first, then applying pressure on the side of the jewelry box, and then I will bend the transfer over and apply some pressure. You can see my other hand is holding that transfer in place so that it doesn't slip around. These transfers do go around corners really well though. Once I had that part of it down, I did take the palette knife and I cut through the transfer in the gaps. Once that was in place, I continued rubbing and pulling that plastic back from the design on the side. It's a good idea to then gently burnish the transfer with the carrier sheet as well. On the door of the jewelry box, I decided to add this other rose design, but I'm going to trim it to size so that it can sit down in the recessed section of the door. I've already used the rose botanical transfer so many times and I still have so many transfers left to pick from. It's just so versatile, definitely a favorite. So as you can see, I'm just rubbing and lifting that plastic as I go. I know it's a little bit repetitive, but I feel like it's helpful to see how to apply them on different surfaces. Here you can see I'm adding the pink rose here to the side of the jewelry box. I'm only going to have a little bit of a leaf peeking around the side of the jewelry box for this one. And again, I'm going over the top of a gap, but I'm not going to have any issues. These really do look seamless, even when you put them over drawers or doors like we have here. So I had a little bit of trouble getting around the corner there. So you saw there that I just made a little cut to make it a little bit easier. And I'm just going to continue rubbing and lifting that plastic until I have that whole transfer down. Just like in the other sections, I'm going to use the palette knife to cut through the transfer in that gap. Next, I started to apply some bronze luxe metallic to some of the details, but as I was applying it, I didn't feel that it tied in very well with the Etiquette's transfer that was there. So in the end, after I'd painted the details, I decided to then switch over and start using Paint Couture's Antique Gold Luxe Metallic instead. I let the bronze metallic dry and then I came in with the antique gold instead, and as soon as I started adding it, I knew I had made the right decision. It definitely tied in better with the Etiquette's transfer. I wasn't worried if I went out of the section like you saw me do there because I was able to use a wet wipe to tidy it up. We have that clear coat down, so it does give me the freedom and the ability to be a bit neater. So I have already applied the bronze, so you can see where I'm going to be applying the antique gold, but I really like how it trims out the piece and it definitely brings more of that sort of gothic elegance. After I finished adding the gold to the sort of trim elements, I then moved on and decided to add one coat to the feet, and I really like how this brings out the sort of gothic style details on these feet a bit more. I'm going to allow some of the original color to show through. I then took out some more of the Etiquette's transfer and I'm actually going to be using the text that they've put in the background. I'm going to be applying it to the sides and I'm just randomly picking sections that I want to use. And here you can see I definitely learnt from my error on the drawers of the piece, and I am pressing a lot lighter. I am going a lot slower as I'm rubbing, and I definitely get a better result when I do this. I really love that IOD put all of this sort of random script and typography in the backgrounds of the Etiquette's transfer because it's perfect for a project like this. I just wanted a hint of that beautiful gold so that the sides would tie in with the front, and being able to use these pieces that essentially would be scraps if they hadn't added these details. It definitely feels like you get a lot more for your money in these transfers. And I'm just cutting out random bits of background text in this transfer pack, and I'm using that as a background piece to go with the roses, and I think it pairs really beautifully with the black and the roses. When I finish rubbing these transfers down, I use my fingers to press the transfers down in place rather than using a carrier sheet to rub and burnish, because I found that if I haven't got them completely down, I might accidentally rub off that section. So definitely take your time, be gentle, and I just used my fingers to make sure everything was adhered down, and that's definitely worked for me. Here you can see I've moved on to the other side of the jewelry box. I'm just repeating the same process, picking out random text text from the background of the Etiquette's transfer, and I'm adhering them down on the sides just in a way that feels right and balanced to me. Next, I'm going to use Paint Couture's Gloss Extreme Guard top coat to seal all of my transfers. I have not tinted this coat because obviously we're going over the top of the transfers. I don't want to have any sort of change in the color of those, so we're just going straight over the top. I'm of course also going to be sealing the sections on the body of the jewellery box. Anywhere that it has those transfers, I'm sealing them in. I'm using gloss so that I can maintain the beautiful shine and luster of the Etiquette's transfer. When that was dry, I started to add the hardware back to the jewellery box. I decided not to add any different colour to those. I like that they sort of allow the design underneath to really shine. I don't want to detract from any of that. And here's our finished jewellery box. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. It's definitely different from what I usually do, but it still has that French feel to it. And sure, I did make a couple of mistakes, but I've learnt from them and I definitely had fun doing something different. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my second project, I'm going to be working on this little clock that I thrifted for about $2. I loved the shape, but to me it felt a little bit dated, a little bit unremarkable, so we're going to give it a makeover. I'm going to remove the clock face first, and then I'm going to be using Paint Couture's Pitch Black again, and I ended up doing 1.5 coats. My second coat really was just a touch-up coat. It really did cover really well. I'm not worried about adhesion. This is actually what feels to be a maybe even a terracotta piece. It definitely felt very porous, so I didn't have any issues with my chalk paint adhering. I usually love the combination of blue and white, but this piece was a little bit dated. It had some nicks and dings out of it. It was a little bit discolored in a couple of places, so I really felt like it deserved a makeover and a fresh new look. And as I said, I'm definitely getting into that sort of moody vibe with Halloween approaching. I'm definitely feeling the darker, more gothic decor at the moment, so it was definitely fun to give this piece a fresh look. When my 2 coats of paint were dry, I took out Paint Couture's French Gold Heavy Metal Metallic. When I opened it, it was very clear that it had separated. So when this happens, you really want to get in there, you want to mix it really well, get those pigments up from the bottom of the jar, stir it really well. I think I stirred mine for about 2 minutes, and you'll see here that it is perfect again. It's all well combined, so don't ever get worried if you open up your container of heavy metal metallics and think that it's ruined. It's not, it just needs a good stir. So here you can see I'm applying that French gold. I started off just applying it to the details, but I loved it so much that I ended up taking out a bigger paintbrush and I started painting the entire piece. This is such a beautiful color. I have not used it on a whole project before. I've only ever used it for detail, so it was definitely fun to use this beautiful heavy metal metallic in a different way. And I ended up doing just 1 coat or 1.5 coat. I didn't have to add 2 coats in all of the areas. It was just in a couple of spots where I hadn't gone in as heavy, and it went so far. It's just so highly pigmented and so beautiful. It's a bit tricky to see the shine that it achieves, but it is absolutely gorgeous. So I worked my way around the clock, applying that beautiful French gold. I love adding the gold and bronze over the top of a black chalk paint. You don't have to do as many coats, and I like the darker tone that it brings as well. It just has a bit more of a rich look to it. For my Australian Paint Couture customers, I am very excited to say that I will have these heavy metal metallics available on my website and in-store very soon. They are on the way. I've wanted to stock these for a while, so I'm excited that I can finally get them in. If you are not in Australia and you would like to try some of these beautiful Paint Couture products, I would really appreciate it if you would use my affiliate link. I will put it in the description and on the screen as well. I just get a little thank you from Paint Couture in return. Now, obviously you could leave it here, but I ended up taking out Paint Couture's black chiffon antiquing glaze, and I'm going to apply it over the top of my French gold. I wanted a bit more of a vintage look here, a bit more worn, and I have not used this glaze before, so I was really interested to see how it went, making it look more like tarnished gold. So I've applied it, and now I'm coming in with a wet wipe, and I am dabbing. I'm not wiping, I'm dabbing at that product, allowing it to sit down in the details on this piece. And I really feel that it definitely gave more of that antiqued, moody look, and it definitely highlighted the details that were already present on this clock that may have gone unnoticed without adding this detail. So I'm just going to continue to repeat those steps, adding that black chiffon glaze and dabbing it back with a wet wipe. While that was drying, I moved my focus to the clock face, and I'm going to be applying 2 coats of that French gold straight over the top of that plastic. I wasn't worried about it adhering. This is not something that's going to be handled a lot, and I felt like it stuck actually pretty well. So I'm just going to work my way around applying that, being careful not to get it on the glass. I did try to separate the glass from the clock mechanism and the frame, but I was too worried that I was going to break it, so I ended up just leaving it in, and I figured I could just use a wet wipe to wipe back anything that I get on the glass. When the gold was dry, I took out that black chiffon glaze again, and just like we did on the body of the clock, I'm going to apply a thin coat of that glaze over the top, and then I'm going to use a wet wipe to dab it back. I really love this look. It's not something I've done before, but it's definitely something that I will be doing again. When that was dry, I put the clock back together. And here's a look at our finished clock. I love how this turned out. I think it was a beautiful transformation, and it's definitely not unremarkable anymore. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. For my next project, I'm going to be working on this little white bird that I had in my stash, and this is going to be a pretty quick and easy flip. I'm going to be using Pitch Black again by Paint Couture, and I'm going to go around and add 1 coat of this over the entire bird. I have done a project on one of these previously. I did a different look. For today's project, we're keeping with that moody sort of gothic feel, so I'm adding the black so that I can come in with a metallic over the top. This is definitely one of my favorite things to do. As I said previously, it cuts down on how many coats you need to add of your metallic paint, and I really like it when you can see some of that black peeking through underneath as well. It definitely gives it a more aged feel. So I'm going to continue adding the black chalk paint over the entire bird. And when that was dry, I took out Paint Couture's Bronze Luxe Metallic. I'm applying it in a dabbing motion. I'm doing this so that you can still see some of that black peeking through in some areas, but it's also allowing me to apply the product a little bit heavier. I only ended up doing 1 coat on this bird, so it was very quick, very easy. And to me, it gave it a sort of antiqued brass look. It looked like an old brass statue. And honestly, I think this would look so beautiful in a office or any setting really where you're going for more of that sort of dark academia look. So I'm just going to continue working my way around this sweet little bird, applying 1 coat of that bronze. And here's a look at our finished bird statue. This was a quick and easy flip, but I think it was definitely very effective. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video and that it's given you some ideas on how you can create some moody French decor for your home. Let me know if you had a favorite project from today. If you enjoyed today's video, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that like button, comment, and share it out. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of our videos. You can find most of the products used today on our website, theprovincialfarmhouse.com.au. Thanks for watching.